Hey everyone, this is Scrap Computer here in conjunction with Michael. This guide will be covering how to counter clones. I will be explaining anything that can give the clones away. This will include items and of course things associated with the clones themselves. I will give a list at the end for everything that can detect, so let's get into it. First up, the basics. What's a clone? A clone is a replicate of the champion that can be summoned by certain champions themselves. These clones are visually the exact same as their real champion counterparts, and many people have problems knowing which one is real when they're activated, and which one is not. Here's a list of champions with clones. Number 1, LeBlanc. Her clone is immediate and is activated when she gets below a certain HP. Number 2, Wukong. This clone is a little different and actually the easiest to spot with visual markers. If he changes, he will immediately go clone and lose any visual effects that were previously pasted upon him. Number 3, Shaco. His ultimate will split him in two after a small time animation. Pretty basic. Clone detection tactics. Now I'll cover all of the basic detection tactics that work with all of the clones exactly the same way. Jungle buffs. Visually, jungle buffs are applied to the champion and rotate around them, and obviously can't be applied to the clone. So when someone clones, we will see the buffs only on the champion and not the clone. This works well versus Shaco and works amazingly versus Wukong, as the buffs just disappear. Stats. You can click on the clone and the champion and check the stats differences. Look at the clip below. We see some of the champion / clones stats are different. A champion and a clone have different stats. So if we click on them both, we will see a difference. This works well versus all of the clones and all, but works very well versus Wukong, as his stats will instantaneously just change. If you click on his clone a lot, you will see the different stat changes. Potions. If a champion has taken a health potion, or a mana potion, or a biscuit when they clone, once they've cloned, the potion will continue working on the champion. So if the potion animation goes away on Wukong, you know he's a clone. Or if Shaco splits, when the clone with the potion visual mark on them is the real one. And obviously a clone can't use a health potion, so we know it's them. Elixirs. Elixirs work exactly the same as potions. This is shown below. Only a champion can take an elixir, hence only a champion can have this aura around them. The one without the aura is clearly the clone. Summoner spells. If you cast a summoner spell on a champion before they try to clone, the visual mark / effect will only remain on the champion. It won't go on the clone. As seen below, I use Ignite and the visual marker of Ignite remains on the champion. It doesn't affect the clone, hence I know which one's the real one. Stacking abilities. Abilities that provide visual stacks can be a big indicator on a clone being used. For example, Vayne stacks, Varus, Gnar, Twitch, Skarner, Braum, Cannon, Darius, Vel'Koz, etc. You will know which is the clone as they will not have the markers when you split, or whenever the Wukong is used, the markers will disappear, hence they aren't going to stack on the clone, they're only on the champion. This requires you to get stacks before they split, but can still work fantastically. Leashes. Any ability leash in the game, for example Fiddlestick's W, if he leashes them before they clone, the leash will stay on the champion and will not move on the clone. So if Shaco splits, our leash will stay on the correct champion. It will not go on the clone, hence we know which one is the clone, the one without the leash. Visual marks. These are visual cues left on the champion that will remove themselves visually when a person clones. The clone will not get a mark on them and the real champion will. In this example, Wukong gets marked by a Kali. Decoys, and then we instantly see the mark disappear. We know he cloned because of this. As normally the mark lasts 6 seconds, it just disappeared. What the hell? The same with Shaco. If he would have split, the mark would have stayed on the real Shaco and not the clone. To name a few champions with marks, we have Lulu, Katarina, Lee Sin, LeBlanc, Shen, Shyvana, Darius, Akali, Cannon, Leona, Diana, Lux, Nidalee, Quinn, Zed, and any other visual mark you can think of. Dots. Dots, much like visual marks, will continue ticking only on the champion. So if Wukong goes invis, the mark will visually disappear until he comes back into vision. Or if you are on a Shaco and use Malzahar E, it will remain on only the Shaco champion and not go on the clone. Example of dots will be Malzahar, Brand, Teemo, Gangplank, Urgot, Nautilus, Jax, Swain, Tristana, Trundle, Cassiopeus, Twitch, Singed, even Mordekaiser with his ultimate, and anyone else we forgot. As with visual marks, they will only stay on the champion and not the clone. Visual debuffs. This is a big one. These are debuffs that will only be removed once the enemy clones and will not affect the champion. In this example, Sion uses his E. It usually has a visual marker to show the debuff. It hits the Wukong and then he decoys. We see the debuff removed immediately and too early, hence we know it's a clone. This works the same way with any visual debuff in the game, there are too many to count. Applied visual effects giveaways. These are tactics you yourself can use on a clone and champion that will give them away immediately, due to the visual effects these items / debuffs come with. Liandre's Torment. If you proc an enemy with an ability and you have this item on, they will get the visual burn marker on themselves. This will remain on the champion but not the clone, as seen below. Grievous Wounds. Any ability or of course items such as Executioner's Calling can apply a Grievous Wound debuff. So if someone clones with the Grievous Wounds on them, the debuff will only affect the champion and the clone will not have it. DFG. Deathfire's Grasp applies a small but noticeable aura around your target. This will remain on the champion when they clone. The one without this debuff is the clone. The one with the aura around them is the real champion. Clone champion visual giveaways. These are visual giveaways a cloning champion can do to themselves. Oracle Lens. If a cloning champion activates this before / when they clone, the visual Oracle Lens will appear above their head. Since only a champion can do this, we know pretty much which one is the clone, the one without it. Frozen Heart Visual. When a champion has this item, they get a visual frost marker on the champion themselves as seen below. But when someone uses a clone, the clone doesn't have this marker. This means Frozen Heart can give away you as a clone user if you play these champions, especially on Wukong as the mark just disappears. Visual giveaways that don't work. Coming on from the previous section, there are items that don't give away your clone, which Frozen Heart does similarly with the same effect. Sunfire Visual. Both of you and your clone have the Sunfire visual, it doesn't give you away. Abyssal Scepter. You and your clone both have the magic debuff marker, it won't give anyone away. Tiamat and Hydra. Both you and your clone can have an active Tiamat being used. It's the same for Static Shiv. Torgons. This will appear for you and your clone, it doesn't give you away. But you can generate more stacks while doing it, which can potentially give you away during a fight. Don't work. Here are a few things that people thought worked or did work previously but's been patched, etc. Smite. You can't smite a clone. Auras. All auras affect clones, so you can't really use this to find out. Items. The items are the same for you and your clone, well visually they're the same, so it doesn't give them away. Custom Detection. Okay, quite an important section. This is the section that's going to cover custom things. It only works on certain champions and not them all, and I couldn't mention them previously because, well, they only work for one champion, maybe two, and that's the same thing. Shaco. Shaco has another tactic to know immediately when he just clones to know which one is the clone. When Shaco summons his ultimate clone, his clone will face north. I'm not joking. Every single time when he just summons it, it always faces north. Look at the clip below. His clone will always face north as soon as it's summoned. Obviously this changes when it moves, but when it's first summoned, north. So you will know which one is the clone for the first second as the clone is facing north. Very simple, but a very, very powerful tactic. LeBlanc. LeBlanc's clone gives itself away. LeBlanc's clone cannot deal damage with her auto attacks, and of course can't use abilities. So when the clone comes auto attacking but does not deal any damage, you will know it's fake immediately. Volley Bear. Volley Sphere normally only works on minions and monsters, so when you cast it on a normal champion it's only a slow. The fear function will only be triggered and applied to a clone, so if you use this when the clones are together, you will know immediately which one is real, the one that is not feared. Wukong Jitter. If Wukong is moving and suddenly his model stiffens and it goes very rigid and very clearly is breaking an animation, it's quite obvious that he's just went into clone stance. Pings. In the example below, Wukong is standing there and I ping him. Once the clone has been done, the ping is removed because we did not ping the clone, we pinged Wukong. So if you ping them before they split or whatever, the ping will remain on the champion, not the clone. In the example below, the ping disappears on Wukong purely because, well, the clone is now only visible, Wukong isn't. So we didn't ping the clone, so we can't see a ping. Overall, pings are quite useful. Last note. In regards to Wukong, I have another Let's Counter guide, which is Let's Counter Stealth. You can go into more general detections there as well. And that's it for the guide, guys. In the description will be an upload of the list you're seeing below now, which is a list of all the custom and things that detect, generally speaking. And of course, guys, I hope you enjoyed it. If you like it, like it. If you dislike it, dislike it. Share the video if you find it was useful, and if you like the content, sub, and that's it. Have an absolutely great day, guys, and thank you so much for watching.